The following program, Know the Cause, is paid for by Mediatrition Incorporated.
You know, I love this. The year 2021, Scientific America, the next deadly plague, fungus. On the cover, they're talking about fungus being the next deadly plague. The plague before, of course, the pandemic, was something called COVID. And folks, in India, they had many people who got COVID break out in a fungus called mucor. Mucormycosis is what they ended up in. It's a fatal fungus. It's very bad. And I have to wonder, and I'll do this toward the end of the show, so bear with me. I have to wonder if the fungus was there first and along came the burden of an immune-suppressing virus called COVID, which activated the fungus. I'll discuss that toward the end of the show. If you're suffering today from fungal problems and you had COVID, does it dovetail into the fungus being there first? Opening today's show, antibiotics and colorectal cancer or colon diseases. What makes someone vulnerable to intestinal diseases? Mycotoxins? Antibiotics or mycotoxins? Dr. Mark Stengler is going to talk about his brand new book. I'm so excited. This guy is a genius writer, The Holistic Guide to Gut Health. And then Dr. John Trowbridge, brain fog, joint pain, belly pain. Could those all be yeast-related problems? I love this guy. Welcome to Know the Cause.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
You know, I've probably gotten 4 or 5 doctors who have sent me a text, and the heading of the text is, "You might be right." Look at the title of this. Can antibiotics cause human cancers? Now, folks, I want you to understand, brand new release of a research paper. Antibiotics are fungal metabolites, so fungus causes cancer. Not so much the antibiotics as fungus. One exposure we have to these mycotoxins, poisonous fungal metabolites, is antibiotics. But we have a lot of exposure via antibiotics. Doctors just write prescriptions for antibiotics like they're going out of style. Are antibiotics linked to early onset colorectal cancer? With cases increasing globally, researchers look at these commonly used drugs. Specifically, the study found the use of antibiotics was associated with an increased risk of colon cancer in both patients over the age of 50 and especially under the age of 50. That should make us all really check. You know, wait a minute. When I was young, we all were. Antibiotics are the new candy in 1960 in doctor's offices. Instead of gum or a sucker, you got antibiotics. And it's still that way today, okay? Here's what most doctors don't understand. Antibiotics are fungal mycotoxins, and fungal mycotoxins are known to cause cancer. As a matter of fact, mycotoxins contribute to much human illness. Now, you've seen this graphic before. I'll go through it very quickly, but I want you to understand. Fungal mycotoxin properties, they can be estrogenic, yikes, endocrine disruptors. Why is my thyroid? Why are my periods all messed up? What's going on here? Carcinogenic, yep, they cause cancer. Embryotoxic, mutagenic, tremorogenic. What is Parkinson's? Teratogenic, poisonous to an unborn fetus. Genotoxic to our DNA. Neurotoxic, nephrotoxic, your kidneys. Hepatotoxic, your liver. Hemotoxic, your bloodstream. Cardio, your heart. Lymph, your lymph system. Skin, and or immunosuppressive. Fungal metabolites, folks, there isn't one course in medical training about fungal poisons. And yet we're eating them, we're swallowing. When we take antibiotics, we're drinking them with alcohol. They're in our grain supply, especially corn and wheat. They're in our peanut supply. Shh, not a course on this in medical training. So mycotoxins can cause human cancers. 5 fungal mycotoxins, this comes out of IARC, which is the International Academy for Research on Cancer. 5 fungal mycotoxins are listed as possibly carcinogenic to humans, and some of those cause cancer in animals, like fumonisin B1, fumonisin B2, fusarium C, ochratoxin A causes cancer in animals, but they don't know if it does in humans yet, and sterigmatocystin. One fungal mycotoxin is FDA tested in our food supply. It's called aflatoxin, and it is known to cause human liver cancer. Amen. And yet, that's not true. I know 4 or 5 oncologists, cancer specialists, who know this. The other 850 have no clue, no clue. Doctor, why? I've been on lots of antibiotics. I drink alcohol because the American Heart, American Cancer says it's okay to have a couple of beers a night. That's what they say, really. And I eat a lot of whole wheat grain. I can't understand why I got colorectal cancer. To which the oncologist will say, well, sometimes these things happen. We just don't know. We're going to start chemotherapy. We're going to start trying. Stop. Put the brakes on. What's the cause? Now this research breaks that human colorectal cancer can be linked, or is linked intimately, to antibiotics. The number of antibiotics you're on, the more the risk, right? The higher the intake, the higher the risk. Are you vulnerable to cancer? Common fungal mycotoxin exposure is in our cereal grains, peanuts, moldy food, inhaling fungus in a home or workplace, antibiotics we now know, alcohol of any kind, and then especially vulnerable those who work outside, folks, plumbers. I could tell you story after story of plumbers I have loved, air conditioning people that work under a building, who end up succumbing to lung cancer. What was really in their lungs? Sometimes lung cancer is confused for lung fungus. The bottom line is this. To be healthy, I believe, is to be actively antifungal. So when you take your multi-B vitamin in the morning, antifungal, antifungal, antifungal. When you swallow zinc, antifungal. Know that eating well, good live foods, taking good supplements is a good thing, and I believe it helps prevent a disease we call colorectal cancer. Hope that helps.
So what I tell them is, look, at the root of this, probably very few are genetic. Most are because of leaky gut. We'll heal your gut up, you'll find a lot of these will dissipate. Or number 2, they have tests done which show, a multitude of food sensitivities. And I tell them, look, don't get freaked out by it, because only a few of those are actually genetic, which will be hard to get rid of. Most of them are from leaky gut. We heal up your gut, they'll go away, and lo and behold, it's true.
Chapter 2, Holistic Guide to Gut Health, written by my dear friend Mark Stengler, Dr. Mark Stengler. Chapter 2, The Root of All Your Health Problems? ? Welcome to the show. Thank
Good to be
you for
with
coming
you,
in.
Doug.
You and Angela flew in from San Diego and spend the morning with us. Thank you so much. So appreciate that. I got to tell you, when I was in clinical nutrition, I saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases. Now, I help some psychiatrists, I help some gastroenterologists, I help some dermatologists, but it all boiled down to when this is good, this is good. Is that what you find and publish in the book? Is gut leakage really a real phenomenon?
Well, that's the question I believed I knew the answer to. So I spent about a year going through the medical literature, and lo and behold, all the mainstream medical literature confirms that yes, leaky gut syndrome, which is increased intestinal permeability, so in the small intestine where the absorption takes place, where you absorb healthy nutrients, glucose and things like that, when it becomes unhealthy because of diet, stress, medications, things like that, you get what's called leaky gut syndrome. So two things happen, Doug. Number 1, you get an inflammatory response in the gut itself. So you'll get abdominal discomfort, gas, bloating. More serious cases, they get ulceration, maybe inflammatory bowel disease, things like this. But another thing happens which most doctors aren't aware of, and it's called translocation. And what that basically means is you start absorbing things you shouldn't absorb into your bloodstream. These components of bacteria cell walls. It's called LPS, I won't get into all the details, but that goes in, gets in the bloodstream, goes throughout the body, and then your immune system recognizes it as a foreign invader like it should, then mounts an immune inflammatory response.
Antibody production.
So then you can get pain in your joints. You can get problems in your brain, inflammation in your heart, and the list goes on and on. And this has been very, very well documented. So yes, to answer your question, yes, if you don't have a healthy gut, especially the small intestine, you cannot be healthy.
And by the way, you can't type in search on Google, gut you type in hyperpermeable intestine.
Right.
They don't use the same words you and I use, but it's out there. It's all out there. My concern was, as someone who studied food allergy for years and years, there's bacteria. Good, God put it there. Good bacteria, good yeast in the intestine. But would pathogenic bacteria, which we get sometimes, leak through? Would we become septicemic? In a minor way, not a huge inflammation. But would we notice, I'm 30 years old and I'm feeling miserable, I can't go to the bathroom, etc. Food allergy, could that ensue? With a gut leakage, you chew up, pancakes, swallow it, and there's wheat and other things leaking through the gut where you're making a B-cell antibody response, and now you're allergic. Are food allergy tests detecting what you've eaten? And you have gut permeability. There's so many questions.
Wow, Doug, you're like reading my mind. So I have patients come in and they have multiple food sensitivities. In almost 3 decades of practice, the people coming in now, the amount of people have multiple food sensitivities, it just keeps going up and up. So what I tell them is, look, at the root of this, probably very few are genetic. Most are because of leaky gut. We'll heal your gut up, you'll find a lot of these will dissipate. Or number 2, they have tests done which show a multitude of food sensitivities. And I tell them, look, don't get freaked out by it, because only a few of those are actually genetic, which are going to be hard to get rid of. Most of them are from leaky gut. We heal up your gut, they'll go away, and lo and behold, it's true. After treating them 2, 3, 4 months, they're able to tolerate more foods, the gut settles down, and what else happens? The brain fog goes away, the joints feel better, the energy goes up, the mood's better. So this direct connection between the gut and the whole body, it's there, it's real.
I'm sure you and Angela, your wife, sit with patients all the time and tell them, look, I know it's ringing. I know you're depressed. When we fix this might clear up. Are we truly the foods we eat? Are we what we eat, or are we what we absorb? Super supplements to help seal up a leaky gut. It was proven one time that a mother who breastfeeds for a year or so, the children don't have so much leaky gut, because that colostrum, again, it's all about God. That colostrum in mom's milk can cause a barrier there in the intestine. The book is amazing. The Holistic Guide to Gut or Tummy Health by Dr. Mark Stengler, Encinitas, California. What a beautiful place. Were you a surfer at one time?
No, actually.
You got to get out in that ocean and have fun. So good to see you.
You too.
Thank you for coming in. The book, pick it up. I must read. You got these problems? Look at this. Thanks. Oh, thank you for joining us. Joining us right now is a good friend of mine, Dr. John Trowbridge. He's written a book called The Yeast Syndrome. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us. What prompted this?
What prompted that? I needed to explain to patients something very complex at that time. This is back in the 80s, early 80s, and have them actually understand there's a real science behind this. And so I was having them read Billy Crook's book, The Yeast Connection. Wonderful book, great stories, explained a lot, but I wanted them to see the real hard science and why my eating program was a bit different than that.
And congratulations on that. When did you and I first meet?
1981.
81.
You taught me food allergies.
Yeah.
Very elegantly, because I'll tell you, I want a food allergy test, and I go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ones. We got to talk.
Yeah, good. We go back so far.
A long way.
And we now both concentrate on identically the same thing. Had a question. How can yeast cause so many different symptoms? Fatigue, brain fog, belly pains, diarrhea, constipation, sinus, constant coughing, joint pains, muscle aches, sleeping difficulty, skin rashes, acne, frequent infections. I'm confused. Where's my doctor?
I was just going to say, you're confused. Ask your doctor.
Comes from a doctor.
But there's the left-hand specialist and the right hand. I don't take care of the right hands. Got to send you there. The problem is that I thought we went to medical school in order to really kind of like put blinders on and learn to really study about this, and we went to specialty training to really put microscope on it and really understand. Then I understood what specialty training was all about. Don't confuse me with the facts. I know, And
you saw that paper I sent you on the polysymptomatic patient.
Absolutely.
What did they do? 20 years ago this was. What did they do? Either a placebo or nystatin. And guess the
The
result.
placebo worked great.
The placebo failed, and nystatin. This is a patient polysymptomatic, from eye twitches to hair loss to heart palpitations to knee pains to gut problems and so forth. And the nystatin helps so many. Why don't traditional doctors know this?
They don't do what doesn't work. Okay, it's very simple. Now, that's a little bit arrogant because they're assuming they know what works and what doesn't. The problem is I've studied much of my practice life now and understanding this and have a bigger view of it every time I look at something. The problem is chemistry, because God gave us only so many amino acids, so many essential fats, so many minerals and such. We build them in special ways, but that's the building blocks for every single thing in your body. And then we regulate them with hormones, and we adjust the chemistry based on the foods that we're eating. So if you just look at it from that perspective, you can fix a lot of things without ever touching it. I tell patients, let's start at what bothers you most. Let's not worry about the others. It might just get better.
You know what I learned probably 5 years ago? These fungi that make these poisons,
Yes,
mycotoxins.
absolutely.
Many of them are you guys sitting down? Endocrine disruptors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't that say a mouthful?
In fact, I think every one of them. You know, the Candida albicans, the most common one,
Yeah.
has the richest genetic endowment of any of the yeasts that get us. okay?
Candida.
And that's because it's been around more. It's got the library it needs.
Yep, exactly. Reference to this goes back to Leviticus in the Bible.
Yes.
Mildew, a spreading
Yes,
fungus.
yes.
The book is called The Yeast Syndrome. Download this free, Sick and Tired. Thank you for making that available, and it's good to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
I learn every time you're here.
A
Thank you.
pleasure.
You know, I worry so much about the poor people in India that are suffering with this mucormycosis. Folks, a mucor is a type of fungus that initiates a disease called mucormycosis. It's a fungal condition that gets in the eyes, the brain. They're having a heck of a time with it in recovered COVID-19 patients. So we need to study this, and we need to teach you a new word, mixopathy. Mixopathy was a headline in an Indian newspaper, and it said it's when you mix traditional allopathic Western medicine here in the U.S. And less traditional, but very traditional in India, called Ayurvedic medicine. A lot of doctors use Ayurvedic medicine. The results speak for themselves. So let's get going. The question in Indian news, Telangana Today, it's called, "Can mixopathy cure black fungus?" Here is all you should know. This is exciting, folks. This, look, in a world importing griseofulvin and sporanox from the U.S. and giving it to, you know, thousands of patients, they can't get enough of it. So they had to turn to what has worked in India for many, many years. Here is Telangana. It's a constituent state of south central India. Here it is on the map right here. There it is right there. And they're having a real problem. Okay, so let's study this. This area has seen an increase in COVID-19 cases that led to an increase in black fungus called mucormycosis. An infection will often start in the sinuses or lungs and spread to the bones or other tissues in the body. In the worst case scenario, a black fungus infection can attack the eyes and the brain, and it can be fatal, and it often is, and this is sad. After an operation to stop an infection, patients' faces often appear mutilated or totally disfigured. They have decided not to publish such images, as they can be distressing, as you can imagine, folks, as you can imagine. This is a significant problem in India, where the soil is filled with this mucor. Now, in the United States, we have pockets of histoplasma, we have pockets of other fungi, coccidioides fungi, and when the wind blows that soil, people inhale it. You've seen these dust storms over Phoenix, Arizona, and so forth, and people are inhaling that valley fever dust. And I think in India that's happening also. When you're recovering from a COVID infection, your immune system is kind of here. When you've recovered, it's here. So just understand that. The fact is that doctors in India are diagnosing the black fungus, known medically as mucormycosis, in COVID-19 patients. Remember, their immune system has dipped. Patients with a weakened immune system are at a higher risk of contracting mucormycosis. That includes patients who have just recovered from COVID-19 infection, and that's often the case they're finding. So they've had an infection, And I remember this when I had it almost 2 years ago. There's that few days when you're starting to feel better and better and better, and I'm taking lots of supplements and I'm chilled, so I'm taking hot baths. And then you hit it 2 or 3 days later, man, I feel good. Your immune system has rebounded. India's chief minister, in consultation with senior doctors, realized that antifungal drugs used to treat mucormycosis were growingly difficult to access. I don't know why that is. These things should be available by the billions. So, an integrated clinical study using both Western allopathic medicine and Ayurvedic medicine was launched in May. This was 2021. When sourcing the antifungal drug amphotericin in Telangana was becoming very difficult as the entire country was impacted by the severe shortage of the drug. I don't get it. I don't purport to get it. I don't know why you couldn't make, this is soil-based organisms. I don't know why you couldn't make 10 trillion of them, but apparently they can't. Ayurvedic medicine, this we all need to study. I don't have time to go into it, but I'm going to give you the formula. Now, those of you TiVoing or DVR who record the show will be able to check this, this next graphic out, but read this one first. It's one of the oldest medical systems and remains one of India's traditional healthcare systems. I love this. Ayurvedic treatment combines products mainly derived from plants, but may also include animal, metal, minerals, and then diet, exercise, and lifestyle. I love this idea. I'm going to give you a formula. I don't know everything about this formula, but here it is, and this is what they used. Recommended formulations. The following medicines can be used according to these treatments in mucormycosis. I can't pronounce some of these, but there you have it. You can take a picture of the screen and really study these, folks, because of this. Now, my last graphic, as I always want to do with you, I want to leave you with something good. This would all be for naught if the results didn't work, so we ordered 10 million more capsules of griseofulvin or of an antifungal. That's not what they said. Watch this. The preliminary results in a clinical study on 92 patients at ENT Hospital Koti and 45 patients at Gandhi Hospital have indicated, and here's that word, significant, not tiny, significant reduction in death, drop in disease progression, drop in disease recurrence, drop in disease, reduce the fungal load, drop the side effects, and reduction in toxicity caused by the dosage from Western medicine, the antifungal, among black fungus patients. Amen. There you have it, folks. Using allopathic when they can get it, but they couldn't get enough, so they had to turn to what they knew, and it worked beautifully. Dare I say, maybe better than drugs. Think about that. I guess then, to summarize, we're all vulnerable to intestinal cancers. We've all been on antibiotics. By the way, antibiotic stewardship is a problem in medicine that they're admitting. I don't see much being done about it, but at least they're saying we're prescribing way too many antibiotics. I wish doctors knew there's kind of a dark side, a very bright side. Antibiotics can save lives, but a dark side too. Thank you, Dr. Stengler, for this new book. Absolutely love it. I got to review it. This is big. Thank you, Dr. John Trowbridge, for coming in and teaching us that yeast problems are epidemic. They're all over the place. Doctors may not be able to diagnose them the first time. It may take a few times, but they're really epidemic. And finally, mucormycosis. Was that first and COVID on top of that? God bless you, folks. Thank you for joining us and telling a friend. Bye-bye.
The preceding program, Know the Cause, was paid for by Mediatrition Incorporated.